Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Blueprint Podcast. Real people, real stories. Chasing dreams, overcoming obstacles. Come get inspired and take action. I know you ready. Let's go.
Welcome back to the Entrepreneurial Blueprint. Today we have a familiar face, Michael Bresler. Obviously, Matt Luterman, CR3 Vice President. Mike, how's everything going?
It's good. It's great to be back. Great to see you.
Yeah, likewise. So let's hop right into it. Obviously, we've been having this ongoing discussion discussing about, artificial intelligence in businesses. We've been discussing a wide range of, how can we improve our businesses using artificial intelligence. The first point I want to jump into is more on a personal note. I was using ChatGPT for a long time, and I started experimenting with other, you said it was LLMs, you said large language models.
That's
so
right.
Currently I'm using, it's called Perplexity.
Sure.
It's another variation of ChatGPT. I actually like it a little bit more. I think the speed's a little bit better. I think the information's better. One thing ChatGPT did that was driving me crazy is I felt like I would set rules for it, and it didn't always listen to those rules. For example, one thing that drove me crazy, you put together a paragraph, you say, can you please edit this, make it look good? And it would always add in those
Oh, the M dashes. Yeah, you don't like
M dashes. And it would drive me crazy because you have to go in, and then you knew it was, it's funny because anytime someone has a bunch of M dashes in their emails, they ChatGPT. That was driving me crazy. And I wanted to see what other ones were like. So what are the big differences between all of these open AIs, large language models, and how do you pick the right one? Is it just preference, or are they actively competing against each other to become better?
So, I mean, you mentioned OpenAI. So ChatGPT is an OpenAI product, right? That one, OpenAI, Sam Altman got over $10 billion investment from Microsoft so far. Perplexity is another one. Claude is another one, which is made by Anthropic, which is like a totally different tech company. You have Copilot, which is Microsoft's product, which is ironic because Microsoft also invested in OpenAI. But at the same time, Copilot, which seems to be lagging behind, also has started using parts of ChatGPT's model, which has, I think, made it better. And then you have, products like Gemini, which is Google's product. And then you also have Notebook LM, which is also Google's product.
There's Grok now, Elon Musk.
Yeah, so it's there's so many. So the question you had, how do you pick them and what are the differences? And so the way I see it is the way you come up with the conversation around what LLM to pick and how to use it is first by looking at your use cases, like why you want to use the tool, what do you need out of the tool, and then what are the most important things that you want to come out of the tool, right? And so what that means is like this. I work with people and they say, oh, well, you're telling us that maybe ChatGPT is the best solution, but I like Claude better. Okay, why do you like Claude? Claude writes better. Okay, well, what are you writing? Who are you writing to? Does it matter, right? Like if you are, for the most part, right, I think a lot of business emails, a lot of sales emails, a lot of newsletters are generally, written to like the 5th to 7th grade reading level, right? And so when someone says, oh, well, Claude writes better, I like Claude. Well, is using Claude going to sell you anything more? Is it going to make it more engaging if the person who's reading it doesn't care, or doesn't know, or doesn't, whatever, right? So it's really about the value proposition. So I think that the first step is really to think about what is my objective for using the tool, and what tool do I need that's actually going to help me reach the objective? Because remember, the objective of technology like AI is not to be able to check a box and say, I did it faster. It's to actually be more effective. So you also have tools like Blaze.ai that, for $20 a month, it gives you what they say is a combination of ChatGPT's, ability to create content, and then Canva's ability to help create like AI generated graphic and design, right? All right, wonderful. So a Blaze.ai can help you. It really can legitimately help you post a lot more content. But is the posting of the content the success, or is it what comes from the posting of the content? So if the posting of the content is success, which it's not, right? Like success of posting is not posting, right? The success is getting something out of the posting, getting a relationship, getting a lead generation, meeting someone new, right? And so my question is always, can that AI actually get you more customers, right? It's not that I have to fill a gap. And so I think it comes down to, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And if you should and you need to, it's making sure you do it as effectively as possible, not just as quickly as possible. So the differences at a high level are, ChatGPT is predominantly, has a lot of the market share, and that's because they were really the first one to come out to the market, really 3 years ago now, which is crazy to think how time has flies. And then, you had other ones like Claude, so I would say, like, to me, ChatGPT is like the Swiss Army knife, right? It does a lot of things well, or okay, good enough.
Yeah.
Claude, is better for instance, if you want to write code or you want to do writing. But then the question is, is using a ChatGPT good enough? Is it going to get you where you need to go? Yes. Okay, so do you need to use Claude, right? The other conversation, which is, I think, a little bit bigger around what tool you pick, is the way I work with clients is we identify what are the bottlenecks of what you need AI tools or other softwares to help you streamline. And then looking at technology you already have to see how it integrates with your workflow, right? Because AI as a tool is just another tool that fits into your workflow, right? So if you're generating, sales copy for, sales guys to call and make leads on, right? That's part of the process. That's not like, the sales guys just don't go in and type in, oh, give me something to sell, and I'm going to say it on the phone, right? Like, it's part of a process. So instead of, having the same process where you might be writing up sales copy, you're going to use AI. Maybe you're going to use AI to collaborate with other people to write the copy, but it's not going to replace you or your knowledge of what sells and what you understand the business to be.
Well, you bring up a good point, because we actually just came out with our own sales manual for all of the franchises, for our branch, for the flagship, that I wrote. Actually, I'm the one that developed it. It's all of my thoughts. It's all of my writing.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of hours on it, but it saved me time because I didn't have to sit and think about, is the grammatical clarity okay on this? Having to sit there and say, all right, how do I structure this? No, I was able to take my thoughts, throw it down on the paper in a structured way, but obviously clerical errors, the flow wasn't great, but my thoughts were there and the information was really good. So I was able to take that, throw it into ChatGPT, say, please just structure this and fix the grammatical errors. It's still all of my writing. It's all of my thoughts, but the editing and the time it actually took for me to put it down saved a lot of time, which is going to help everyone. I mean, that meant the sales manual was able to come out sooner. So not only was it able to help our branch and sales trainings, because we were able to use that, but then the franchises, the Series 3 franchises, were able to receive them in a quickly manner as well, which is obviously going to help them. So it's, I guess, sort of a compound effect. If things work in a way where you can get the result quickly, or quicker than you did, then why not use it? And
100%.
Yeah,
100%. And but the key, though, that you mentioned, right, is that you, right, have the proper skills to sell, and thus you have the proper skills to come up with sales copy, right? So take somebody else who doesn't do selling or hasn't had a track record for sales, doesn't necessarily know their customer or their brand. They can also go into technology like AI and create a sales copy booklet. They can do the same thing you did, right? But the difference is, while you're both going to share the efficiency side, which is, oh, we did it really quickly, yours will be effective because you actually know what you're doing. Right. And the other person won't be effective. And that's, I think, what the point to make here is, when we talk about efficiency, that's really important, right? Like, getting more out of your time is really critical for all of us. But making sure that the time spent is actually effective. That's the key to success. Because what I'm finding in the world right now is that many people are using AI to do many, many things, but they're not good at those many, many things. And thus it's just kind of more crap, like more oversaturation of content on social media, images on social media, and it's just more noise, right? And so like with your background and your ability to create sales content is going to be creating what they call the signal, right? Which is the ability to actually deliver and execute. But other people who are using it who don't know how, they're just going to create noise.
Yeah, that's a good point. I actually think it's easier when it comes to using these. Rather than type into ChatGPT or Claude or Grok or any of these and say, write me a sales manual that's tailored to selling exterior remodeling.
Mm-hmm.
You then have to go in and edit that how you want it to look and sound.
Yeah.
Which to me takes a lot more effort than actually making a sales manual that has the information that you want, and then just using these tools to help edit it and make it sound professional. A lot easier that way, in my opinion. So I think this is an easy transition because I also wanted to get an update, see how everything's going with you, your company, your clients, the businesses you're dealing with, because it is cool that you deal with a lot of different industries.
Sure. Yeah.
All need sort of the same goal. But you do get to deal with a lot of different industries and see how using these technologies and using artificial intelligence to improve these businesses is really intriguing. So how's that going? Where do you see this this industry? Well, I guess really these tools going, and how are you actively staying up to date? Let's just keep diving into that.
Yeah, sure. Business is good. Business is growing. There's a big need for folks like what I do, which is helping organizations find essentially effectiveness within their process, right? Efficiency and effectiveness, along with how to identify what the solutions are going to be. And one of those solutions is AI, right? And so, I think what's reinforced in my life, since I've been in this business is, number one, that AI is not a magic wand, right? And we just talked about this, to the sense that a lot of people want AI just to come in and solve all their problems, but there's a lot of the people, right? The people side, which is like the knowledge, the expertise side, and then the process side, which is making sure there's a good process for how it works, right? And so effectiveness is really what I'm after as I work with organizations. And what I'm finding is that there's a really, really great spot, a sweet spot for AI technology, which is to be layered on top of human expertise, right? And then also to be layered on good process. And there's other options too, right? Speeding up process through AI, or also AI can be really helpful, specifically large language models can be helpful to, give an employee kind of an accelerator in their ability to be efficient when there aren't necessarily specific tools that will do that work for you, right? So you think about like the size of business matters a lot, right? So like if you're a smaller business, a startup, you're a few people, you could be a service company, digital marketing company, right? If you're a one-woman show, you have a couple of employees, like AI is going to help you scale because there's like so much you could do, but you also, let's say, are bootstrapping it. So you don't have all the money to get like a big CRM, right? So AI can do a lot of that work. When you get into like the larger phases, that's where a proper system that uses AI technology behind the scenes can really help you move the needle. You kind of graduated from using, let's say, a large language model, right? So, so if like, for instance, for the case of like sales copy, right? Like it makes a lot of sense to use a large language model because you yourself, as an expert in sales, would be able to work with it better than like going out and finding a system, a software that's going to like help you create sales copy, right? Like that would make a lot of sense. The other thing I'm seeing, right, is the work I do, the way I work with the clients, is we essentially start with the main question of what do you want to achieve more of, right? And then what are the pain points? We start to do a discovery on what are the pain points that you have that you really need to free up time on. So what are those things that are mundane or they're very manual that aren't necessarily moving the needle as much as it should? And so can you streamline those things so that you can free up more time and you can have more time to do, like, meet with a client, right? And so the way that process looks is once you start to identify the processes that have bottlenecks, is starting to ask the questions on, like, why do you have those processes? What do you do with those processes? Are there other people in the organization that have similar processes, right? Are they duplicative? Many times, not surprisingly, the response is like, that's how I was trained, right? I was trained to do this process, is what I've been doing for 5 years. Like, I don't know why we do it. I kind of check a box and I go through the process. The second area, which I find really interesting now, is about 60% right now of the solutions live within technology that companies pay for already, right? So like, they want me to come in and bring an AI tool in, but really the tool they're already paying for, if they just used a feature that it has, it could solve their problem, right? And that's not necessarily to the fault of the people using the tools. Software, technology, our iPhones, they're all just constantly putting out new things and new features, and it's really impossible for us to keep up with everything, right? And so a lot of the work I do is like getting people to really think about, okay, let's first be preventative, and then let's figure out how to solve the problem. I'll give you an example. Like, I have one of the questions that's been coming up most recently has been, I'm overloaded with emails. Can AI respond to my emails? Can AI go through my emails and tell me what emails are most important, right?
Then you're getting into automations. Yeah.
You're getting into automations. But my question is not, or my answer is not, let's talk more about how AI can help you with your emails. My question is, what emails are you getting and why are you getting those emails? And how can you be more proactive in preventing those emails, right? So for instance, that means like, I'd worked with a school where, a lot of emails that would come in were immediately before parent-teacher conferences, because they were like, what's the schedule for next week? I'm going to come to the teachers, right? So the solution wasn't having a bot responding to that parent to say, here's your schedule. The solution was just to proactively send out the schedule to all the parents, right? And so a lot of times, the problems we're trying to solve with AI are actually rooted in like communication. Like, we're not communicating enough. We are not sharing enough information. We're not proactive enough, right? And so you think about doctors' offices, right? Like, why do doctors' offices or why do roofing companies call their client and say, hey, just a reminder, I'll be there tomorrow, or just a reminder, I'll be there in 5 days, right? It's a level of service, right? It's a great level of service communication, but a lot of that started because when you have an appointment and you don't put it in your calendar, then you call the roofing company or you call the doctor's office and you go, what is my appointment, right? Yeah. And so you get so many of those appointments, you get so many of those phone calls about so many appointments. Now you're inundated with all these calls and emails. Okay, so how do I prevent that? I'm going to call you first. I'm going to email you first. I want to make sure that you know before I'm going to remind you before you're reminding yourself to call me to find out when it is.
It's funny you say that. I'm actually going through physical therapy right now. The amount of times I forgot I had an appointment, but they messaged me the morning of saying, hey, your appointment's at 5:30 today.
Yeah.
Thank goodness, because then I would have, missed an appointment and had to pay all of that money for a missed appointment. And not only does it help like you said, it doesn't just show good customer service, it does help the consumer. There's so many things going on right now that it's hard to wrap your mind around everything you have going on in your life. And just helping the consumer out does show a level of care, really in a lot of industry, actually most industries.
Yeah, 100%. The ability to be proactive.
Yeah, even with the CRMs that you brought up, the automations and stuff like that, when you have, 10,000 clients in your CRM, you can't expect the sales team, you can't expect the executive team, you can't expect all of your team at your company to be able to keep up with all of the customers. So having those automations through AI just send out those messages saying, hey, just thinking about you, hey, it's Michael, just thinking about you.
Yeah, 100%.
Hope you're still thinking about doing this project. They don't know if it's AI or not. And even if they do think it's AI, it still shows that this company wants my business. And that to me is one of the big beneficial tools of using these automations and using this technology.
Yeah, and to be clear, remember you mentioned two things: AI and automation, right? So AI and automation they're not synonymous. We've had automation for many years, right? Like, MailChimp. I mean, even before AI was something proper like that was out there, you had all these constant contact MailChimp, direct marketing tools that have been, you set up like maybe it wasn't as automated or maybe it wasn't as targeted. But if you ever signed up, like for, I don't know, I signed up, I'm interested in CR3 roofing. Now I'm in an email gauntlet and it was automatically sending out to me over a certain time period, right? Or the leaves, I need a leaf removal, or it was raining and I had a storm, a reminder about, oh, it's raining outside. Have you done your gutters, right? Like a lot of that has always been happening. So it's not necessarily an AI thing. I think a lot of it is it's just authentic. It's just, I think the key here is that where I'm seeing the most value is plugging in automation and AI into the background, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then allowing the humans to do the human thing, right? So doing more of if I'm a sales guy or, I'm a foreman, being able to talk to the customer more and being available more for the customer if they need me. But by essentially using automation to free up time, right? So instead of taking those phone calls of like, when's my appointment? I'm now automating that so I don't get those phone calls, but I'm going to now be able to talk to the person who's calling me about an actual problem, something that they need a person to talk to.
Yeah, but I think how, and you sort of touched on it, how AI and automations, they're not synonymous, but they will go hand in hand. Mm-hmm. When you have automations, you basically have it on a timer. So every 2 days, right, we're going to send out an automated text saying, hey, here's your reminder, or are you still thinking about getting, in our industry, a roof done, or whatever industry it is?
Yeah.
Let's say a good one is Chewy.com, right? I have a dog, and you can set it up so they send out the food every 20 days, but they send out automated text, hey, just making sure you still want your food.
Right.
Sometimes the customer responds, no, thank you, I'm good now.
Mm-hmm.
Where before, with the automations that are timed, someone at that company would have to reach out, either turn them off,
sure, yeah,
or respond themselves. But sometimes you forget to respond, and then the automated text starts saying, hey, do you still want this food? And the customer says, no, I just answered, I don't want the food. Right. With AI, the AI will start to understand the flow of conversation and can dictate when the automations turn off, when to keep them going.
100%.
Maybe they'll be able to even edit the automations, which that's going to be a really cool feature for all businesses. It's not just going to benefit the consumer anymore. It's really going to benefit the business owners and the businesses using AI and automations together.
Mm-hmm. 100%. Yeah, and the key there is, you mentioned, there's a value in, right, whether or not you start with a focus of customer satisfaction, but ultimately happy customers will lead to business growth, which will lead to better employee satisfaction, right? Mm-hmm. And if you start with employee satisfaction, which is, freeing up time, that inevitably will lead them to be able to support customers better. And supporting customers better will ultimately grow your business, which will lead to the growth of employees, right? So it is all that. It is being able to find the workflow and the process to automate, to use technology where you are providing a higher level of satisfaction for the employees, right? So they're able to focus on the things that really matter. And then employee satisfaction, that they're able to get what they paid for and they are satisfied. And they're also, as important, referenceable, right? That they're able to, put a 5-star rating on Google.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's really important, especially now being able to remind the customer to leave a review. Mm-hmm. Reviews more than anything, because you have Google LSA that is largely dictated off who has the most what's the word I'm looking for? participation from consumers,
Right. Yeah.
reviews, clicks, all of that stuff. So that's really interesting as well. Are different industries, is this largely uniform when you're dealing with different industries, the processes you're putting in place, or is this largely, are you seeing some industries need these tools more than others?
I would say that so the service businesses, unless the ones that have like, scaled where they're really thinking about enterprise, right? But like the smaller businesses, I would say need more of this because, they started with one person mowing a lawn and now they have like a business of,
Right.
200 lawns, right? And now they have a crew and they're just like kind of working off of the same process they used to work off of. And so I think I see that. And then I also see there's organizations that predominantly, I would say in the mission driven space, which would be medical, healthcare, and also nonprofits, right? Foundations, organizations that, they've been working, but not necessarily focused on process and technology. And so there's a lot of value there, right? A lot of organizations, they're not, they need some help on how to get, help staff do more, right? Essentially, I think it's two still buckets. I mean, I think the big, like the large organizations or the larger for-profit businesses that have always just been very much focused on maximizing margins. Those I see like, yes, there's another level of AI for that, right? But the work I'm doing, the clients that I work with intentionally are really, in the small to mid market, right?
Mm-hmm.
It could be a 10-person service company. It also could be a 250-person nonprofit.
Right.
But those are the ones that generally, they're growing, right? Or they want to grow more. And that's the ones I'm working with are the ones that have felt the pain that, they need to do more of what they have. And like, how do you get more out of what they have, whether it's their technology or their staff? But it's not just getting more out of their staff, it's getting more of the good stuff out of the staff. And it's also helping the staff, like I said, like, focus on what they want to do. Because a lot of the where AI can really fit in is it can help to kind of eliminate the repetitive tasks or the mundane tasks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is where like people may not want to be, and it can help people do some things that are maybe more exciting for them.
You actually, I'm going to ask a follow-up question, but you brought up a good point. One of the overarching questions is AI, or all of these technology pieces we're discussing going to be stealing jobs? Right, that's a very scary question that people are wondering. And the job, and I can understand why. Take law firms for example. Forever, law firms have needed paralegals where you're dealing with a case. You need to go look into the law, all these different law books, study, find some clause that you can use for your case. We're now getting back to our original discussion topic, which is using Claude, for example. All you got to do is go in Claude and say, hey, here's my case. Go into this textbook and find a clause that can help my case. It's done it'll be done in 10 minutes, right? So now, do you need paralegals, right? I argue that it's actually going to help generate more jobs. It's going to take the mundane jobs that nobody wants, and it's actually going to create more jobs, the stuff that people do want. It's also going to cut costs. So anytime you cut costs in a company, that just means everybody's salaries might get a little bit bigger, right? People are going to make more money. And so my first question is, are jobs going to be stolen? And if not, how can jobs be created by implementing these processes?
Yeah, sure. So look, I mean, I like to say we've seen this movie before, like if you've lived through the internet or even lived through certain technological changes.
The .com bubble.
Yeah, .com, right? Like that's what we are right now. I mean, I like to think we're in like 1997. You have these large language models who are out, and people are asking which one do we pick the most. Well, the reality is there's going to be one that might come out in a year that kind of is better than all of them. and in 10 years, the ones might not exist. I mean, think about like the internet, right? Like Google came out in like 98, 97, 98, right? Before that was Magellan, Alta Vista, AOL. I mean, Netscape. I mean, they had a whole bunch. They are long memory now. I mean, those of us who like grew up in that era and learned how to use browsers in high school, but Magellan, AOL. I mean, they're just long time ago memories, right? Like Hollywood Video and Blockbuster, same thing. So I say that because when the internet happened, they also thought there was going to be a loss of jobs. When they went to automated toll roads and they added EasyPass, they said, "Oh, there's going to be a loss of jobs." When they had ATMs, they said there's going to be a loss of jobs. And in all those cases, there's actually more jobs, right? Now, there might not be as many, there might not be as many people collecting money at the toll, but there are more jobs because think about all the back office work that has to get done, right? So now that you're automating things, there's a whole, EasyPass team. There's a whole team that's dealing with like the fines through EasyPass. There's a whole, there's all this stuff that has to happen, right? Like automated tolling doesn't just happen with nobody. It happens with a team of people or a big team of people. And it's very much similar with like tellers. There are more tellers now than there were before the ATMs. That comes from obviously financial growth, but a lot of it was, tellers had their job morphed. Instead of doing all transactional, now if you go to a bank teller, they're selling you on a credit card, selling you on a mortgage. Like they're not just doing transactions, right? And I see that with AI as well, right? With AI, there's all these new jobs that are coming out just because of how AI operates in an organization, right? So you're going to need, let's say, more focused on, privacy, confidentiality type things around AI. You're going to need, let's say, different type of engineers who do AI specific work. You might need more people like me who focus more on, process and how to integrate AI, right? So there's a lot of jobs that get created with new technology.
Right.
And you can go through like Uber, DoorDash, and you go to every tech that's come out, where they're like, "Oh my God, Uber's going to come out." There's still plenty of taxi drivers, but there's now there's more people doing more jobs. Now, if you're going to ask me, are those jobs better than the other jobs? That I don't have an answer whether or not it's better to be an Uber driver or a taxi driver or an Uber driver versus a different job, right? But generally speaking, more technology, more automation, more AI means that there's going to be jobs that come out that we don't even know about, or we can't even like fathom right now.
Right.
So the answer is yes. I mean, will some jobs like cease to exist? Yes, they probably will. But will other jobs come, behind it or beside it? Yes, it will. Right. So think about like, okay, Blockbuster Hollywood went out of business, so now there's no more jobs of people managing video cassettes. There's no more people who have to rewind the cassette, when it was returned. Like,
Right.
You used to get. I mean, hopefully there's some older folks listening, right? But like, you used to have to rewind the VCR cassette, or you get like $1 fine, right? And so there was a job of a person who used to do that. Okay, so like we're digital now, but think about it. Okay, so there's no more big box I can go rent, but think about how big Netflix is and how all the streaming services are, right? Like the streaming service world, think about like all the jobs. I mean, Apple TV is like its own ecosystem of movie and film production.
Well, that's a really good point that you brought up. That I didn't even think about. Like Blockbuster, if you wanted to go watch a movie at home, you had to go to a Blockbuster. Now you can go. You have Hulu, Netflix.
Right, and it's global, right? The global economy. Like you would never be able to get a foreign film at your local Blockbuster. Maybe one or two if it was like popular. But now, you go onto Netflix and you can go see, something in Swedish, something in German, something in Hebrew, Arabic, Chinese. Like it's like literally like the world's in your fingertips, right? And that's the thing with technology, right? Like when technology happened and compression happened, so you could compress videos and you could do more digital and streaming, like think about what happened from those types of technology. Like YouTube happened, right? The ability to actually stream and watch video. This podcast, the fact that, we don't have to be in person anymore, right? Like that also changes things, but there's still a lot of work that goes into putting together the show, posting the show, managing the show. So I think the answer is that, you know, we will see a shift in jobs, but, you know, employment overall, there will be many other types of jobs. So the key, if people are worried, the key is to figure out now, you know, what does upskilling look like? What does the future of work look like? And figure out how to get there. So this is what a lot of the college kids want to know. A lot of parents also with college age kids want to know. Like they always ask me, what's the future of the jobs? Right? Like my kid wants to go into X. Will there be a job like that? My kid wants to be a systems architect or developer. Oh, hey, but you know, you have Mark Cuban saying, oh, well, there won't be any more developers anymore. It'll just be AI, right? And so, but the reality also is that nobody really knows. No one can tell the future. And just because you started an AI company or, you know, you exited some big company, it doesn't mean that you're going to be right the next time. You only got to be right once. And most of these guys aren't always right more than once. I mean, the crazier ones are maybe, but because they make their own being right.
But with all of these advancements, one again good side effect of it too is things will become cheaper. When you have the opportunity for people to get into enter an industry with innovation right now with ChatGPT, but think about Netflix and Hulu and all that, they're competing against each other, right? So when you're competing, when you have all these companies competing against each other, well, you obviously want to be the cheapest platform, right? For us, we want to be the cheapest roofing company by price because there's 20 other roofing companies in our area, right? So whoever can come up with the best price is going to win. Well, guess what happens when you have these companies competing against each other and trying to beat the price from the other company? The consumer gets to benefit from that.
Yeah,
and so
competition is good.
Competition is very good. And I think
that's a real thing.
To your point, this is just going to open up competition because it gives people the ability to, again, 30 years ago, if you didn't have a college degree, it was very hard, right, to start a business. I think it's easier now to start a business than at any time in any point because
100%.
the resources are there. I know more about construction than I ever have because I just go to, for me, Perplexity, type in, you know, what's the cost per square on this product right now, and how do you install it? Well, something that might take a couple hours now takes me 10 seconds. And again, for people who want to start a business, they have all of these resources at their hand to help them create these businesses, again, which in my opinion is just going to benefit, you know, our America and you see the world. I think you know, third world countries are going to benefit from this. I think everybody's going to benefit from this, and I think it's to me it's less scary and more beneficial to have all of these. I mean, obviously you're going to have some issues dealing with it. I mean, you have issues with the internet. I mean, you see the internet's an amazing tool, but it also gives bad people access to information. It gives kids access to stuff they probably shouldn't be seeing. And so there's always going to be drawbacks and negative side effects. But I think the good is going to outweigh the bad with this.
Yeah, one reminder, as you mentioned, using Perplexity. So I do want to stress that as you use technology like AI, for all of our listeners out there, that they do make sure that they validate, right? Validate what they're getting is real. So you might know, right? You might know offhand what the cost per square foot is for something, but like a regular person who doesn't necessarily know, like make sure that they spot check that. Check it with like your, go on Home Depot's website, do something like that. The other thing I'll mention is like, I mean, look, you see it now, whether you use a gas combustion car or use an EV, like, the world changes, the world moves around. The last thing I'll say about the whole job thing is that, because a partner at a law firm asked me, they said, oh, we have this AI tool we use. It took me like 2 minutes to write a brief. Why do I need to have an associate anymore? Right. And my response was, well, how did you learn to be the lawyer you are today? And he was like, well, I was an associate. And I like broke my teeth on all this law stuff. And I was like, well, so who's going to take over your law firm in 20 years?
Right.
And he's like, the associates. I said, I know, but you just told me you're not going to have any more associates. Right. So I think there is like this is part of the future of work conversation. is it's not necessarily about like replacement. It's about like how do we work side by side with technology, and we have to really be thinking logically, because when you say one thing, not you, but when someone says, okay, there's going to be job loss in this market, like it's like, what's the trickle down effect, right? So think about like Amazon, right? Like Amazon came out, they're selling books, and then suddenly they have Amazon Prime, and then suddenly you can get something next day, right? And then now today you can get it within an hour, right? Okay, so what happens? We're like, oh, this is great. Amazon's so great. But then what happens? UPS gets flooded, FedEx gets flooded. And suddenly, I remember when this happened, the article comes out. Bezos is buying planes to be able to ship stuff on his own. And you're like, oh my God, right? That's the downstream impact. So more jobs, more jobs, more jobs, more jobs. And then you kind of go down that path of like, every time something happens, there's downstream impact, whether it's positive or negative, but there's downstream impact. And so I think that's the challenge right now for the world, is why it's so important. I think like this conversation and the work that I'm doing specifically around just helping people look at the end-to-end processes and like the overall ecosystem is so critical, because when you say one thing, like if someone says, oh, there's gonna be no more teachers because AI is gonna help teach, like it's a big statement, but like, come on guys, let's think about what that looks like. Let's really, really, really think, like map it out. What's that gonna look like? Like, what's it really going to look like? Not just what someone's going to say it looks like, right?
Yeah. Well, I could probably sit here and talk with you all day, Michael, but we do have real jobs that we have to work and make money. You know, we got to keep up with this, though, with this conversation. It's an ongoing conversation. Let's try to get back to this weekly. I think everybody will benefit from that. But again, thank you for taking the time, talking with me, letting the listeners, you know, hear it here. And I do think we have younger listeners as well. Obviously, you have some with friends, and I coach a lot of them in baseball, and they love to listen to this. So, you know, it's cool that I wish I had this in high school, this technology, but also people that are willing to talk about it and be open about it. So, yeah, I think it's great. So, Michael, again, thank you, and let's keep this going.
Wonderful.